Hi, this is Mike from Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and on today's video we'll be taking a look at the Ionz Pro Gamer KZ02 Airflow in black. Keep watching to find out more. Okay, so budget cases are back, and back with a vengeance. So we have been sent over some cases from our good friends over at Ionz, and this is the first one of the four that we'll be taking a look at. This is the Pro Gamer KZ02 Airflow in black. This case has a ton of different options available. So there's available in the black version, which you can see here. Also, we've got a mesh. There's also a glass version, so if glass is your thing, you can have a glass fronted version, and also it's in white, you can have it with and without fans, etc, etc. So plenty of options, and should be something for pretty much everyone, and at a pretty decent price. Well, comparatively in the market we're in currently. So this at the moment retails at somewhere between the £40 to £45 mark here in the UK, which, taking into account things like inflation and shipping costs, etc, this pretty much price point is the kind of like the new budget entry level, but you do get a lot for your money. So we'll go through today, do an unboxing, do a bit of a teardown, see what it's all about, go through some of the specifications, and you can find out whether or not it's going to be suitable for your next PC build. So first of all, packaging wise, not a great deal to speak of. They've kept it very simple, which I personally like. So as you can see, this is the Ionz Pro Gamer KZ02 series. There was actually another version of the KZ02, the original one, which is kind of been superseded with this. It's a little bit bigger, a little bit better, a few more features, and of course we do now have that airflow option. On this side, you can take a look at the dimensions. You can see there the width, the height, and the depth. So for those of you in America or other countries, you're looking at 18 inches tall, 8 inches wide, and about 14.5 inches deep. On the other end of the box goes into some of the other specifications. So this is an ATX case, suitable for Micro-ATX and mini ITX should you wish to. Goes around all the specs. I'll leave that on the screen so you can read that for yourselves. So let's take a tour around the case and see what it's all about. So obviously, starting off, one of the key features is this new mesh design on the front, which I actually really like. There is actually an additional mesh behind the mesh, and as most of us will probably know, mesh on mesh is generally not so good for airflow. So I've actually taken it out in this instance, but I'll be showing you later when we go through inside. The front panel comes off very easily indeed. All you do is there's a grab handle on the bottom, grab it and just pull the front off, and the whole thing comes off, giving you access to the fans, which I'll show you now. So with the front panel off, you can see we've got our 3 addressable RGB fans on the front here. These are included with the build. Obviously, if you don't want them, there is an option, I believe, to have just a case without fans. Although realistically, if you want to, you can swap those out very easily. They don't actually charge a great deal extra for them. The difference in pricing is very minimal indeed. So these are addressable RGB. The downside of them, which is going to be probably a bit of a bummer for some of you, is the fact that they are fixed RPM. And later on in the video we'll go through and plug them in so you can see exactly how loud they are and see whether or not it's going to be too much for you or whether you're going to need to change them out or whatever. Anyway, so the mesh on the front, very reminiscent of the kind of Corsair kind of look. Done very nicely. It's all metal. The surround is plastic, and it's going to be nice and easy to clean and all that kind of good stuff, so that's very good. There's also some slits down the side for a little bit of additional airflow, not that they're going to make much difference. Of course, that will be unfiltered. If you wanted to, of course, with the fans, 3 120s, you can take those out and it will fit in their 140s, so you could put 2 140s in there should you wish to. There are additional mounting points for that, and actually the back bit's been cut out very nicely so airflow isn't too restricted. Moving around to the side of the case, and this is something which I like and we should see it on a lot more cases. This is the magnetic hinged window, so just pull the little fabric tab there and you can open the glass, and the glass goes pretty much all the way around, so giving you really good access to the inside of the case. The glass itself, as you can see, after we peel this back, there's no tint to it at all, so it is very clear. So if you want to see inside and see all your RGB and stuff, then you can do very easily. And also if you want to remove it, you can do, just lift it up off the hinges and you can put it to one side whilst you're building your PC. So looking inside, we'll see this is the additional mesh. Now this is normally in front of the other mesh on the front of the case. Personally, this I feel is a little bit too restrictive. If you're working in a particularly dusty environment, then potentially you might want to put this in and forego some of the airflow. Personally for me, I think this is something which I would take out immediately. Also inside we do have some mounting hardware, so there's all the screws etc for mounting hard drives and additional screws for mounting your motherboard pillars etc. And there is also a very brief installation guide, although to be honest with you it's very straightforward, so you probably won't be needing that, but it's nice that it's there anyway. So as you can see from the front there, lots of airflow coming through from these 3 120mm fans on the front, and basically no restrictions whatsoever. That is a very good thing to see. Obviously more airflow equals better temps overall. The basement section is done very nicely in my opinion as well. It is a solid basement section, although there are some very nicely spaced cutouts on the bottom for passing through things like your HD audio, USB 2, front panel I/O. Also on the front there is a section here, so you can actually mount a radiator in here if you wanted to. Potentially I would say a 280 is probably the biggest you'll get in there. Some of you may get a 360 in there, although you may find it fouls the wiring at the top there for your front I/O. So realistically, they are saying as a manufacturer, 240mm or 280mm is really the biggest you should try for. But obviously, it's your case, you can do what you like with it. Talking about the pass-throughs, plenty there. So you've got pass-throughs for your ATX cables on the side here, or for graphics card power. And if we tilt it back a bit, you can see at the top there, nice big cutout for your ATX EPS connector, and also for things like fan connections as well. There isn't a huge amount of room at the top of the case. So in terms of fan mountings in the top, it is realistically going to be either two 120s, possibly 140 up there if you wanted. There isn't a cutout for 140s, so you would have to kind of make that fit yourselves. In terms of radiators, it is offset at the top, but unless you've got really, really low profile RAM, I would say a 240mm radiator in the top is probably not the best of ideas. You're much better off going with fans in the top. So that's about it for the internals. Let's take a look at the back. So we've got traditional I/O shield section here. As you can see from the back, where the I/O shield ends, there isn't a great deal of depth there. You're looking at around about 25mm, which is ideal for fans, but again, for radiators, it is going to be very, very tight in there, so I would advise against it. Also in the back, you've got room for a 120mm fan. This isn't included as standard, but if you want to put an additional one in there, you certainly can do. You've got your PCI Express blanking plates there. Sadly, due to the budget nature of this case, these are captive ones, so you do need to bend those out, and probably best bending those out before you put your graphics card in or your motherboard in, just so you don't have to wiggle them next to things like capacitors or surface mounted diodes on the motherboard. Adjustment for the back PCI Express cards is on a simple thumb screw, so loosen that off and this slides across, giving you access to your screws and to put your graphics cards in or expansion cards, that kind of thing. And moving down towards the bottom, we've got a traditional sized ATX power supply bay. Moving around to the back, nice to see there is a flat back panel, which no bulges, so that means we've got a little bit of cable management room inside. They have stated about 20mm of cable management depth, which isn't particularly cavernous, but certainly is better than some cases on the market. The actual back panel, got a little bit of flex to it, but it does seem relatively good. So looking in the back, again, big cutout for your CPU cooler. You've got your pass-throughs there for EPS connector, fans, etc. ATX main power, GPU possibly, or other things going through the side, SATA connections, etc. Lots of punch outs, so for cable management wise, going to be able to do a pretty tidy build in this. Moving to the bottom, so we do have a removable hard drive caddy. You can take that if you want to, just a couple of screws on the bottom and you can remove that. You can put in two drives in there, two 3.5-inch drives, or a 3.5 and a 2.5 on the top. The top drive won't be enclosed, so it will be kind of open, but for most people that's going to be absolutely fine. Room for a power supply in there, not a huge amount of room, so obviously some power supplies you may need to be a little bit cautious with your wiring, although you've got that room on the top, so wires coming out of the back should be absolutely fine. When it comes to connectivity, so we have got a USB port, so for two USBs. You've also got HD audio, there's a USB 3.0, which telltale sign, it's only got one cable coming out of it, so that means there's only one port, unfortunately. And then you have got your regular I/O for the front, so you've got your hard drive LED, power LED, and your power switch. There isn't a reset switch as such on here because that has been repurposed, which then goes into this snake's nest here of cabling. This is for your addressable RGB fans. So sadly, they are only addressable RGB and fixed RPM. So for some people, I can see that's going to be a definite turn off. Again, we'll listen to those later when we fire it up so you can see how loud they actually are. They are daisy chained as well. So they have their kind of JST connector, which daisy chains through, so 3 fans. Basically ends up being powered by a single SATA connection. So that goes to your power supply. And this cable here, which says RGB switch, is basically going up through to the top and is then basically your reset switch, which has been repurposed. Press the button, you can cycle through the lighting options. There's no option, unfortunately, to be able to connect this to a motherboard to take control. So ideally with these type of fans, if you've got an older motherboard which doesn't support addressable RGB, but you want to give it some RGB bling, then this is a really good option. For modern motherboards that have an addressable RGB header, it's a little bit of an oversight in my opinion. Also where the wiring is, it does cover up where there are an additional 2 mounting areas. So you can put a 2.5-inch SSD or hard drive in this section here, and also there. So 2 drives in there, and you can put your SATA cables through however you want to. You could mount the drives on the front if you wanted to. There is enough room there, so if you wanted to have your drive showing on the other side, definitely something you could possibly do. Moving down to the bottom, so on the bottom you've got 4 plastic feet with foam on the bottom to stop vibrations. You've also got your usual kind of flimsy power supply filter. Just, yeah, I don't like those a great deal, but it gets the job done. A little bit of ventilation on there, a little bit tight mesh, but will stop stuff getting into your power supply, I guess. And you've got 2 screws on the bottom there. Undo those 2 screws, move the cage up, and then you can remove the hard drive cage in its entirety. On the top we've got our I/O section, so you've got a power button, you've got your hard drive and power LEDs. You've also got the reset switch, which, like I said, has been repurposed to your RGB, so you can press that to change through different lighting styles, which you'll see later. 2 USB 2.0s, separate mic and headphone jack, always nice to see that rather than a combo port, and a single solitary lonely USB 3.0. Also, you've got a mesh filter on the top, so depending what you're doing, you can have that. You can see there is a slight offset there, so 120mm fans in there are going to be fine. 240mm AIO, possible, maybe a struggle. I would probably advise against it, again, due to the compact nature of this case and also potentially your motherboard VRMs or RGB RAM sticking up a little bit too much. I think avoiding a water cooler in the top section is probably the best way forward. Okay, so there we go, we've got the case fired back up now, as you can see, and we've got the addressable RGB shining through. I think this case has a very, very nice look to it. I do like this mesh front and the fact that we can see all of the lighting, and it's center lit RGB, so it does spread out really nicely and diffuses quite well. Something that you may be picking up, if I'm completely quiet now, you'll pick up on the noise. It's a little bit on the loud side for me, to be honest with you. I don't think personally I could use it in my day-to-day work, because obviously we do need to keep an eye on noise levels for filming, etc. But if you're just a gamer and you've got your headphones on and you're just blasting away playing your favourite games, then I think it's going to be absolutely fine. Now, of course, if you want to, you can change the colour, so press the button on the top and it will cycle through the various colour options, of which there aren't a great deal, but certainly there should be something for pretty much everyone. So you've got this kind of colour change set up, and another sort of pastel version of the same thing. Then you've got your fade colours, red, green, blue, etc. through the RGB spectrums. So very good. And then you've got another colour wheel, another colour wheel. Then you've got your statics, so you've got your red, your green, and your blue, then into a kind of magenta, is that? Or purple? I don't know. That's magenta. I know that one, that's magenta. Then you've got yellow, and then you've got the white, plain white, which is actually really nice and bright. And then it goes back into the addressable RGB unicorn puke. So overall, I think it's a very nice case. Again, if you can put up with the noise of the fans, then you're going to be absolutely golden. Now, there is obviously a side effect of having noisy fans, is the fact that it's pushing an absolute ton of air. So it is going to keep things very nice and cool, and anything which is kind of in its path in here, there's an absolute gale force going through there, but it does come at, unfortunately, the cost of a slightly higher noise profile. Now, of course, if you like the look of this case and the design, then there's no reason why you can't just take the fans out, put them to one side, or maybe even sell them on eBay, maybe get a few quid for them to invest in some nicer fans. That is entirely down to the end user, but I think a lot of people are going to be absolutely fine with it. It's just me, I'm a little bit fussy about noise levels on fans. Maybe you are too. Let us know in the comments section below. Now, if you do want to pick up one of these cases, they're actually available in a lot of places here in the United Kingdom. So you can pick them up on ebay.co.uk. You can also pick them up on Amazon. And also they're available from the people who actually import these into the UK, and that is pcgamingcases.co.uk, part of the Ionz and KZ group. So you're more than welcome to check out the links, which we'll put in the video description. And I suppose at this point I should turn around and say thank you very much to Ionz for sending this over to us for reviewing. We've got a whole bunch of their cases coming up soon, so if maybe this isn't quite what you want, then there is a few more options. We've got something a little bit cheaper, we've got something a little bit more expensive, and something which is absolutely ludicrous, which is absolutely huge and has lots and lots of glass and 6 fans in it. So do keep your eyes open for that one. And of course, the best way of doing that is to click on the subscribe button and the chime notification so you'll be notified of future video releases. But I think for now, that's going to wrap things up. I've been Mike, this is Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and hopefully we'll catch you in the very next video. Thanks for watching.